Hello, good morning, Texas. Good morning, Louisiana. And good morning, world. Sir David Porter, how are you?
Yes, doing great, doing great. I'm proud of us reaching all of our distribution. We're growing. We're growing on the Smart Money Culture Network, and we're growing across our medias. And we're
Well,
pretty
that's right.
excited about atcostmetals.club getting ready for their launch, the MLM company where you can buy your gold, your silver at cost with incredible prices. We've had a few experts and pretty accustomed people to buying metals, and they agreed that they can't beat that price. They're actually paying too much before, so now they're happy to see these new prices that they're going to be able to get.
So at Cost Metal, very interesting, and you join the club. It's similar to Costco, and you can buy metals at cost. We are pretty excited about it. That is launching. Not crypto is not for everybody. Now crypto is flying, man. Even this morning, I thought, well, we might have a bit of rejection at this point, and no, not yet. We are still pushing that. So that is it is flying, and that is the story of the time, because it is really just it is going, guys. It is going. It is hard for not hard, but it is really interesting to come where we've come from, and when we're buying these things for under $100, and to see it at such a high price right now, it is impressive. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely. And that is what you want to do with your profits. Not only maybe reinvest them into some altcoins, but put them into something more sound, more stable, rather, and get yourself some gold and silver to hedge against this inflation. A lot of the pumps are from the inflation that's been going on.
Oh, well, of course. I mean, that's I was looking at some of the numbers that we have coming out, and we are on track to spend uh, to mint spend, however you want to look at it, double what we did last year. So I was looking at some of the numbers over the last few years, and we were basically, over the last 5 or 6 years, 4, 5, 6 years, we have spent between around give or take, 5 trillion to $7 trillion per year, and the last few years it's been right around six, and we are if we keep up the current pace of where we're at right now, we could be spending $12 trillion in 2024. And if we spend $12 trillion in 2024, then that is going to be significant. You're going to feel that. I know I talk about it often. The what the government spends, what the Federal Reserve mints, and then the U.S. Treasury says they spend, is your actual tax rate. So you think that your tax rate is whatever you think it is, but in reality, your tax rate is what the government spends. And so if the government is only bringing in 1.5 trillion, which is what they plan to bring in for the taxes, and they spent 6 trillion last year, then they're going to take the rest of the 4.5 trillion out from you, and that is going to be from inflation. Now, the other thing that these trillions of dollars will do is add to the debt that we owe the Federal Reserve, and that's when they talk about the national debt, right? I mean, a lot of people don't even understand what is the national debt. What's the national debt? Well, because you have people explain it in all types of different funny ways. Oh, well, that's the trade imbalance, and that's this, and that's that. The national debt's what we owe. What we owe the central bank, which is called the Federal Reserve, for fronting the money to us. And so they front the paper money, and then that comes with a bit of debt, and it's a big scam. It's the biggest scam going. And if the fact that it looks like to me, increasing the amount of money that they are issuing out in such a large amount. I mean, if we do end up spending $12 trillion this year, vis-a-vis 6 trillion last year and around 6 trillion, give or take, over the last few years, then that is very significant. And we're all going to feel that a lot. So, and that's, you have to look at it and say, all right, well, they don't, what is their long-term goal of this? And I don't think they have one, really. I don't think that they're purposefully, most of them anyway, trying to crash the economy. People say they're trying to do it on purpose. I don't think they're really trying to do it on purpose. I think they're like drunk, they're drunk on printing money. It must be such a great feeling to just mint a lot of money and have it, have everyone believe it, like the central banking guy said from New Zealand. Central banking is great business. Print money and everybody believes it. So I think they're drunk on that. And then every time there's a massive bill, like that they're trying to push through right now, or this continuing resolution CR, which actually the omnibus bill that they passed last year, Texas court just ruled that was unconstitutional. So that's pretty interesting too. And of course, you have the wranglings with the Trump and all that stuff I'm going to talk about in a minute. But every time one of those passes, number one, the central bank knows it's going to make a ton of money, right? Because it gets to mint up more money. And the central bank is always in the business of fronting the money. I actually put out a post yesterday, and I talked about it on the show, with the quote unquote forgiving of the loans for the students. And that forgiving of the loans is, it just sounds like, oh, they're going to forgive the loans. But they're not going to forgive the loans. They're going to mint the money. They're going to pay off the banks. And then they're going to charge you for minting the money. Because $136 billion, okay? $136 billion. And so that's going to cost every household in America about $1,200, okay, in order to pay that off. And someone responded to my post, said, "No, that's not the way it works. They're going to write it off and this and that." And I said, you think that the banks are going to write off $136 billion? Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I think I do. Okay. The banks aren't going to write off $136 billion. They're going to collect that money from the people that just minted up. That's why nobody's worried about it. Otherwise, the central banks would never, the banks, period, would never let this happen. They're not in the business of writing off $136 billion. I'll tell you that. So stocks are down a little bit. Bitcoin, as we said, still flying 62,904. I can pull that up right here. That is just really going here. Don't bet against the bull, as they say. 62,823 we're at right now. It should crescent, but we will see. It is the bull. But you see how this is, and we'll have some good analysis from our good friend Matt Dixon here shortly. Stocks are down slightly. We have this actually futures here. Dow futures are down about 100. That has not changed. NASDAQ futures are down a bit as well. Oil is down a bit. Might have too much going on my computer again here. It's running. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange is flat. That number also has not changed. A lot of times, as I put these out earlier, then they change. Make sure to follow David. He's Sir David Porter on X. I am Networks Manager. You see that oil number there, really just unchanged. Natural gas. It has been a wild ride on natural gas. There are fears of the war widening in over in Israel and Lebanon. That is definite talk on that. They're kind of going at a tit for tat a little bit at the moment, but we know how that is. Russia has moved nuclear weapons up in different places as Sweden has joined NATO. Putin has promised that he will take military action for Sweden joining Poland, or Sweden joining NATO. And this is something I talked about a little bit. This war between the Russians and the Swedish people has been going on for thousands of years. This is not new. This is similar to the Ukrainians and the Russians. I mean, these people have been fighting for a long time. Not as long as the Arabs and the Jews, but long time. But those people, they've been fighting even longer. They really like to go at it. So lots. There is a lot going on there. I think one way or the other, they're going to push through this bill. Mike Johnson, Speaker Mike Johnson, he's tap dancing, but he says they're going to get some deal. Big news too. Mitch McConnell has stepped down. Is stepping down as Senate Majority Leader. That is significant. You know, you have Mitch McConnell stepping down. MacArthur is out. You have Ronna McDaniel. She stepped down. There's a few other ones. I mean, there is a definite changing of the guard. As I've mentioned a couple of times, I think that Trump will, if they let him get to the finish line and they let him have an election, I think he will win and he will be the president. Now the administrative state is going to work very, very hard in order to not let him do anything. That's going to be the play, the administrative state. And he plays ball with you know what I mean? He appoints people that I would never appoint. So we'll see how he handles things. But SCOTUS has agreed to hear, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear his immunity case. Remember, I mentioned they were kicking that down the field. So, but you know, again, just in and out of court, you had some more states yesterday that said they're going to keep him off the ballot. So that, of course, they're going to have to fight that. I mean, it's one thing really after the other. For the clear front runner, you know, Biden looks like he can't even walk over a finish line. It's pretty interesting how it's all shaking out. That's for sure. But SCOTUS is going to hear the immunity case. That immunity case could just throw everything out the window.
I don't know if they'll let it slide that easily.
Of course not. Of course not. The supreme robes are not revolutionist. I would just be absolutely floored if they came out and said he was immune from prosecution or whatever. I don't know. I mean, it just seems to me pretty far-fetched. I don't think the Supreme Court's going to come out and do that. They might come out and say they don't have standing or something like that. Isn't that what they did on the 2020 stuff? They said they didn't really have standing to rule on it. Remember those cases? That was their play. So they heard the art. They I don't know how that worked exactly. Anyway, we'll see. It's it will be pretty interesting. We're about to come back from commercial break on Smart Money Culture TV. We'll bring our good friend in here, Matt Dixon. Let me just check and see how we are progressing there. Right, coming near the end of the break on Smart Money Culture TV. Big moves we're making on Smart Money Culture TV. That is, we are right now reaching about 7 million people on Smart Money Culture TV. And we plan to 6x that, I think is the idea. We're going to 6x that by July to be in front of 50 million. Did I have my numbers right? Sometimes I like to think the numbers are bigger. All right, we're back on Smart Money Culture TV. Thanks for joining us in Texas and Louisiana. We have with us here the great Matt Dixon. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thank you. Good morning. Morning, David. Morning, Bruce. Morning, America.
Yes.
And the world.
Oh, interesting day. I mean, these markets are just unbelievable, really. The amount of money that's floating around, I mean, even in all the markets, really is staggering.
Yeah. I mean, we'll look at that in a minute because it's really interesting to see what the drivers are behind it. just to go back to what you were saying, I think absolutely right. I mean, the student debt, obviously, if they write it off, somebody pays at the end of the day, and at the end of the day, it's always the consumer that pays.
Always.
Government can say, "Oh, we're writing it off," but it's obviously the consumer that pays at the end of the day. There's no doubt whatsoever in any thinking person's mind that that's what's going to happen.
Well, it's pretty interesting because as I said it was like a lot of really smart people. They're like, "Oh my gosh, of course he's right. Like the banks aren't just going to eat $136 billion."
Yeah, they don't want to believe it. I'm sharing my screen again. I hope you can.
I'll add it to the stage here. Here we go. All right.
I mean, that pile of figures there is actually looking at the various Bitcoin ETFs. And quite, you can see all the ones: BlackRock, Fidelity, Bitwise, ARK, Invesco, etc., along to Grayscale. And it's looking at the net inflows, and it's really interesting. Even yesterday, so we can see right from the start, the 11th, when the ETF was approved, and we started pretty well straight away with net inflows, but there were quite a few outflows, which is why we saw there's a bit of a spike at the start, and then we saw a bit of a sell-off in Bitcoin. So we can really see this is correlated, the amount of money coming in and going out of the Bitcoin ETFs. And this is the cumulative figure down on the right. So it's the figures on the right that you really need to take notice of. You can see it's been flooding out of Grayscale all the way along, which it would do. Their fees are much, much higher. People are taking profits from the discount they got in earlier. So it will continue to flow out of Grayscale, and from Grayscale flow into others. But what's really important is, even though you had 125 million outflow yesterday from Grayscale, the net inflow was 576 million, so $500 million net inflow. So this, coming into Bitcoin with such limited supply, is what's driving the price. So it's a real powerful driver. I mean, you've only got, the drivers are supply and demand. And supply is, virtually fixed. There is a small amount of mining to grow the supply a little bit, but the demand is exploding, and that's what's driving the price like crazy. So it's really interesting. I wanted to look at fear and greed today and just see where, what that impact that has, because at the end of the day, the market is all about who's buying, who's selling, and they're driven very much by the fear and the greed in the market. And this is like a cumulative figure, and it's gathered from all sorts of data, but they're using, social media data, and it's really smart the way they gather it. It's not just counting numbers of people who talk about Bitcoin. It's actually, now we have NLP, that's neuro-linguistic programming, so AI effectively, which actually can now understand what people are tweeting and what people are saying on the social media. And they can actually now factor in the meaning of what they're saying into these types of metrics like fear and greed. And there's all sorts of other things they look at as well, volatility and so on. But it's really very interesting information. And right now, we're at a greed reading of 80. That's extreme greed, really, both now and yesterday. Yesterday it was 82, the extreme greed still, until still we're on that reading of extreme greed. And you can see from last month, yes, there was greed there, but it's grown and grown and grown. So it's growing, the amount of greed. This is just quite interesting to have a very quick look at. This is fear and greed over a long period of time for crypto. And just interestingly, I noticed there's obviously peaks and troughs in it. So I wanted to look at that when you compare it with the price of Bitcoin and the fear and greed index, and see if we can draw any conclusions from it, see if there's anything we can learn as traders to help us, empower us to make better trades. So I looked a bit further, and we can see some of the insights here that basically, obviously, when the market's in the doldrums like COVID, we're actually in the extreme fear phase there in the red down here. And when things are going really well, like when there's been a massive pump in price, 5x price increase, we're at extreme greed. And so that's quite interesting. So I thought, well, let's put this together and see if we can understand even more what we can gain from this. So this at the bottom is the fear and greed index, and showing since late 2020, early 2021. And we can see what you really ideally need to do is use a logarithmic chart, I think, against this. If you're looking any longer term than this is okay, back to 2020. But if you go any further back, you do need to use a logarithmic chart so you can actually see the rises in context really with the fear and greed. But this is good enough here, and we can basically see that when there's a rise in price, so this was the first rise to 60, just over 60k, 62 or something, back in somewhere early 2021, and we can see that the greed was extreme, at extreme levels, even higher than what it is right now. So that's interesting, because what it's telling me is there's actually scope potentially for greed to rise even more from where we are right now with the price. So potentially we can rise based on this to new all-time highs with Bitcoin. But really interestingly, every time we see a peak, we're seeing a peak in greed, and every time we see a trough, there's basically an extreme of fear. So a price trough, and we see extreme of fear with showing the red here. And it happens every single time, and even with individual waves that have labeled with Elliott wave here. So you can see the top of this red wave 1 coincided with this green extreme greed here. And then the top of the blue wave 1 again coinciding with extreme greed. And then the top of wave 3, extreme greed. And then the current top, or maybe maybe somewhere we can extend further, as I said, but there's actually we're in a position of extreme greed, which is coinciding with most probably a wave 5 in blue, wave 3 in red. So I think it's quite significant that it coincides with the Elliott waves, which obviously are on the peaks and troughs of the market. But this is telling us clearly that when the market is in a position of extreme greed, it's probably not the right time to be jumping into those positions. We need to be jumping into those positions at the time when the market is in a position of extreme fear. So all the low points, and we just follow the fear and greed index, are available online. You can track them. There's lots that we actually produce one at eBay as well. Lots of places you can find this information, but it can really empower you to buy in when the market is in an accumulation phase. These sort of areas, these low points, the market is beginning to accumulate. And this is when the professionals are accumulating, and they know the market's at a low, that there's extreme fear out there. When the market gets to highs like now, everybody's piling in, and that's why we call it greed, because people are piling in because of greed. They've heard Bitcoin has doubled and whatever it's however much it's gone up. Same with the other cryptos, and people are absolutely piling in, the retail traders. But these are the sorts of times when professional traders will be looking to at least protect profits, even if they continue to ride the rise in the market. They'll be looking to at least protect their profits. So this tells you an awful lot. And I would strongly advise any traders to be aware of fear and greed and factor it in. And we factor it into our metrics at eBay within the ratings that we do. It's very important. It's probably the most important thing you'll ever look at, because all of technical analysis, pretty well all of it, is lagging indicators. It's looking at past price history, but this is actually probably the only leading indicator that you can, virtually one of the only leading, or at least current indicators that there are, that you can really look at a reading currently on a scale and find out that the market is extremely stretched as it is at the moment. And that's showing the price there of 62.8 on Bitcoin. So it's very current, and we're at a position of, if you lined it up, here at the extreme greed situation. And you can see very clearly what it is that what drives the fear and the greed. And this actually is what's behind Elliott wave analysis. Elliott wave analysis is actually behavioral analysis, and it's just understanding people's psychology in the market that drives the market. So for example, you can see in a rising wave here, we've been rising for some time. It's just showing the full cycle here. But when people are optimistic, obviously they're buying, they get really enthusiastic, then there's exuberance and euphoria. And when there's real euphoria and everyone's saying it can only go one way because nothing can hurt this market right now, it's just going to go parabolic high. Well, it can do for some time, but when you get to those areas of euphoria, that's when you're that green area of extreme greed. And then you might then see the first signs, because you start to see the beginnings of a sell-off at some point, and then people start to get a little bit anxious, but they also come into a situation of denial that the market's falling, they hold on, but then the fear starts to grip, and then despair and panic and capitulation. Capitulation is basically when you throw the towel in and you sell everything just at the wrong time. When the market's at the bottom, the extreme fear, the red area of the market, and people get discouraged, etc. And then the cycle continues again. As we can see, when it starts to rise, there's a bit of dismay, but then there's hope and a bit of relief and then optimism, and you get back onto this rising cycle here. So that is the most important thing that drives the markets, because the whole markets are really based on people's psychology, how they feel about the market, buying and selling. Here's the S&P. Again, it's still under pressure. And don't forget, we've got PCE figures out today. So that's the Fed's preferred measure of inflation. And it's personal consumption expenditure. So it's what people are actually spending. And we'll see what those figures are. A high figure would ironically mean that there's probably pressure on inflation. That's probably not good for the market. They're expecting a slightly lower figure. Let's hope that happens and continues to push the markets higher. But there is some concern, and as I say, we hit those two fib levels on the S&P 500. We've fallen a bit from there, although to be fair, it doesn't look impulsive at the moment on the downside. So it could be just winding up for a bigger fall to the downside, but I'm not clear. I don't think the market's clear, but there are some indications that we reached a top there with those two fib levels, and we got this bearish divergence in place. But it could have been just a temporary top. We don't know. This looks corrective to the downside. So right now, it's not quite clear where we're going with the S&P. I think tonight will be very informative when we hear those PCE numbers come out. So here's a further breakdown of the S&P. This is right up to date, really. You can see we've been falling a little bit there, and we had some interesting candles. That was basically a shooting star candlestick there, which indicative of a top, and then we got an engulfing candlestick, bearish candlestick there, almost a harami, not quite, but then a further engulfing candlestick. So at the moment, looking a little bit bearish. I wouldn't be looking to buy this market, but maybe it's dangerous to sell it. So just warning lights, really. Just be cautious. Here's the DXY. This is where we were yesterday. We started to bounce off this line. We actually retested it again today, but higher up as the line increases. This is just a parallel channel, nothing more, but it's containing the price very well. As we can see, it just keeps retesting now. So it looks as though maybe we'll get strong PC figures out tonight that could strengthen the dollar and push dollar higher. But let's see. It all depends on those figures. So I don't like to trade ahead of figures. It's good to see what they are and just see where it's driving the market. But at the moment, we've really respected this support line very well. Right at the start here, number 2 here, number 3 here, number 4 here. So 4 times on the bottom and on the top. 1, 2, 3, 4 times on the top. So it's really highly respected support and resistance there. So obviously it can break, but the tendency is that when these keep getting tested over and over again and keep getting rejected, the price, it becomes a stronger and stronger signal. So that's why the price just bounced off it very, very sharply this morning.
And that's
here's the Bitcoin. And again, we're looking at a final phase. Sorry?
And that's the strength of the US dollar.
That's right. That was the strength of the US dollar. Yeah. So as you know, if the US dollar strengthens, it basically means people might be moving into treasuries and out of risk assets, because treasury is seen as risk-free effectively, out of risk assets. And if you think about it, if they're, if the calls to lower interest rates, in fact, we'll look at that again in a moment. That'll be from yesterday's, but I will look at interest rates and where we're going with that. But here's Bitcoin, and it does look as though potentially we obviously can go higher, but we do have 5 waves from the last wave 4, and it's part of a bigger cycle. But there's last wave 4, we've got wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th wave itself is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we could be near a local top on Bitcoin. I do think it will just be a correction after this, and we'll probably get another push higher. But I think we could get a correction. And look at this candlestick here. You can see it's a doji, which basically means price was pushing higher, 64,000 last night. And then we got a sharp sell-off within about 10 minutes. We got a 10% sell-off in Bitcoin. And that was to do with Coinbase had a bit of a glitch with their exchange. And for a time, a lot of the balances, people's Bitcoin balances, were showing a zero. And that caused a real scare across the markets and a bit of a sell-off. And as I say, 10% in 10 minutes. But you just wonder whether all this stuff is orchestrated, because that caused massive liquidation of a lot of longs in the market.
Like
so a lot of people leverage long. We got this 10-minute sell-off, 10% in 10 minutes, and all those leveraged longs, or an awful lot of them, massive amounts of them, were liquidated. So that put money into the hands of the market makers and the exchanges and so on. And then things just, it was just a bit of a glitch, it seems, that's fixed now.
Just a glitch. Coinbase is really known for this. I don't want to talk bad about them per se, but this is like something that always happens to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's they've got a massive, the assets are massive. I mean, a lot of the dealing through of the ETFs is through Coinbase, so there's massive liquidity goes through them, and so they'd be the one, if you want to manipulate anything to do with Bitcoin, that would be the one the exchange to get involved with. I'm just going to touch on this again, just because I know I showed it yesterday, but it's really important to show where we are in the market if we've got time. But again, this is looking at unemployment rate. And again, basically, unintuitively, or sort of, you would expect when unemployment is at rock bottom, you think that's going to be great for the economy. But it's actually when unemployment is rock bottom that we see recessions. All these gray areas are recessions. There's actually 12 recessions here shown over the past 70 odd years. 12 recessions. Every one of them started when unemployment was at a low, at a turning point on a low. So every single one, you can look at it, every time unemployment is at a low and then turning higher. And we saw that in the COVID crisis. Unemployment was at a low. We got a massive pump up in unemployment because of COVID. But that was actually, they settled that with printing a load of money and bailing us out short term. But obviously, it's just plastering over the problems. But then we're now seeing, once again, virtually all time, for a long time, unemployment lows. And so when that turns, we do expect another recession to come. So, it's not all roses out there. There's some issues. And again, just touching on this one, this is the worry that the interest rates are unlikely to fall as quickly or as soon as we expected. And so the March rate, in March 20th FOMC meeting, 90% of the market were expecting a fall in the rate in March. That was back in December. That was the expectation. 90% of people expected. But as time goes on, fewer and fewer people, and now only 3% of the market expect interest rates to fall at the March meeting. So it's not going to happen. There's not going to be any change in interest rates. So what everyone was hoping for and expecting, a fall in rates, and a fall in rates makes business more profitable. It means there's more money in the economy. People don't have to pay so much on their loans, etc., etc. So there's more money available. But if you don't lower interest rates, there's less money available. And that's not good for the economy. But there does seem to be fear in the market. And what appears to be happening is, just looping back to that very first slide, people are piling money in like there's no tomorrow into the Bitcoin ETFs. And that's where, so interestingly, this yesterday was the second biggest ever flow of money into any ETF, not just a Bitcoin ETF, but to any ETFs. Looking at the biggest flow yesterday, it was the second biggest ever, looking at all instruments, ETF instruments. So just shows there's massive euphoria growing around Bitcoin. But that is the area that, again, looping back, that we're in now, an extreme sort of euphoria, extreme greed in the market. And these are the times that we need to be cautious, not when the market's in the doldrums. So I think there are many, many lessons to be learned there that we can learn. And again, obviously, we've got the Learn How to Trade course with the discount code Trade Smart, and you can sign up at learnhowtotrade.club. But this will teach you some of these things. I touch on a little bit each day, but there's so much more to be found within the course that will help, again, empower you to know when to be buying, when to be selling, and how to trade in a more effective way. So I think that was interesting today. I think it's fascinating looking at fear and greed. What do you think, David, Bruce?
Big time, big time. It actually simplifies it amazingly. if you just follow the greed and fear index.
Yeah, I mean, it is really something else. I just the massive amount of money, and then I don't know if you heard about it last night at some point. You know, the feds moved the Bitfinex hack coins, and I thought, well, I mean, gosh, it was like $500 million worth or something like that. I don't know, it was a lot, and man, the market's they just hardly even moved. I thought, well, that's gonna create a sell off, but no, didn't. No, it was
you'd think
$1 billion.
You'd think so, but
Yeah.
$500 million.
It was
that
$1 billion.
Was the net inflow. Sorry,
it was $1 billion.
That was the net inflow. That was the net inflow to ETFs yesterday. So it soaked up just like that. Normally, yes, it would have a negative impact, and people were worrying about it for months. But the rate of flow of money into the Bitcoin ETFs right now, that was more than soaked up in one day.
Yeah, I know, but it's always one of those things. It's one thing to have those volumes. I mean, you and I know how those volumes work. It's one thing to have those volumes happening, and it's another thing to have that big sell order, $1 billion sell order at that price. You know what I mean? Because you have the market makers doing all the things that they do. But you're right, when you look at those net inflows into the ETFs, and that gives you more of a story on it.
Yeah, and again, I don't think many people. I mean, it's good just to keep track of, those figures. They're available on the internet again, and then 576.8 million was the net inflow yesterday, and that was despite the Grayscale losing 125 million. We still got net inflow of 576. So that was the highest. Oh no, it's actually not the highest, but it's up there among the highest inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs, the net inflows. But the biggest single inflow was actually into the BlackRock ETF yesterday. So that was the biggest single inflow. So yeah, it's phenomenal the amount of money that's flowing in. Can't go on forever, but don't bet against the trend. The trend is your friend. And at the moment, we're in extreme greed, but you don't know. We have been more extreme in the past, so there's still room for more rises. But we should probably just be aware that this is a time to be a little bit cautious. Most people are sitting on really nice profits now. And as I say, I think a lot of people should be looking at least guarding those profits. Maybe not take the profit, because there could be a lot more to be had, but at least be aware and guard the profits that you have.
Yep. Yeah, I hear you. Well, pretty interesting. I know we have some good conferences coming up in Dubai. Are you lining anything up?
Well, I'm actually going to a Solana event tonight, but yeah, as you say, I'm not sure which conferences we'll be heading to, but yeah, there's a lot of really good conferences. Dubai is a great place. It's so concentrated. There's so many conferences held here roundabout. It is one of the crypto hubs of the world. Obviously in America, but there's also Singapore. Dubai is one of the big ones. So it's a great place to be.
It is. We're going to try to get over there. Hopefully in the next month. I'll be done with my Annie play here. I'll be done with this Annie play this week. Of course, it's already the way they did it. They cast two different sets for the kids, and then they cast the adults. We had to do all the shows. It's been a heck of a run. The kids, I can tell you, they're going to be so sad. My daughters have like one more show, I think, and then there's two more shows for the other cast, and then we're out. But it has been a wonderful experience with the kids. But I am looking forward to getting back to work, because doing 2 shows a day, you figure that's at least 5 hours or 4 or 5 hours, because you're preparing to get at least an hour of preparation for the show. And so we're doing 2 of those, and then with whatever else I'm doing, and then that stuff. It has been very rewarding, but something else. I am going to actually play the clip. I got the clip from the news station. They sent it over, so I'm gonna play that in a second. That should be pretty funny. It's like a 5 minute.
I was just reflecting on the golf, by the way. You showed the golf the other day. You played us. America won that time. I remember. You guys won. But you may also remember, because I was actually had COVID while we were playing.
Here we go. It was the COVID.
I didn't realize until I got back and got tested, but I definitely had COVID. do you remember we were actually eating out at dinner after that golf night, and I was looking pretty dead that night, and it was because of the COVID. Surprising you guys didn't catch it.
I don't remember that at all. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, really?
I'll tell you what, that course is just beautiful. That one in Monaco. I know we played a few different courses. We have some great ones in Dubai as well. It would be really great to get back to Monaco this year. I'll tell you that. That's it is definitely on my radar. And if we do go back, we have to play there. It was just unbelievable, those views. And it's funny. I push out a lot of this stuff on social media sometimes because it's funny. Sometimes you lose a hard drive or you lose your phone or whatever happens, and sometimes you lose that stuff. But the live videos I did from out there, they're not loading on Twitter or X. I'll have to talk to Elon about this. I don't know what happened. I didn't do anything. What happened? Elon, we need our stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, great reporting or great analysis today. It is. I'm watching everything very, very closely as we push forward. I think the alt push is going to be absolutely. It's just going to be staggering for people. You still have coins like Global Boost, which is totally oversold. And I mean, I should say, not financial advice, and that's the coin that we started, but way oversold. And of course, it's just slowly rising now because of a rising tide, right? Makes all ships go high, or whatever that's the word. Yeah, and so like you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, this all-time high is $2.14, and we're at about 3 cents, 2.9 cents, or whatever. So if we pass the all-time high, this bull run at some point, and it goes up very fast, it's not like one of those things, then that's 100x. And I think there's going to be 100x. Even look at Ave, where it is at, and it's all-time high.
I believe so. These little tokens, they can really explode overnight, and especially when you've got some good foundations there and some important news coming out. I know that with eBay. I don't know enough about what your token. We should probably have a chat about that sometime as well. But I know what we've got coming through end of March, and it should be very exciting. We should see, especially if we're in a bull market. I mean, you've got everything lining up together, all pulling in the right direction.
Well, that's the thing, is when you have the bull market, people have their profits, and then they want to take those profits and make more, and you really get that going on there. So pretty exciting stuff. Well, thank you so much, Matt, again, for joining in the analysis. Look forward to we'll be finishing up another week tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Good.
Amazing.
There we go.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, David. Thanks, Bruce.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Look forward to tomorrow, and then we'll have a rest for the weekend.
You probably ought to practice your golf.
Definitely.
Yeah. Keep it up.
David was the putter. David was the safe putter, wasn't he?
David pulled out the win, as I remember. But if it wasn't for my drives and stuff, it never would happen.
Yeah. That was great. Thank you, guys. Catch you soon.
All right. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.
Good.
All right, so it's right here at 43:30. I have the tweet queued up. I got the 5-minute video of I've been doing the play Annie with my two daughters. We went on ABC Good Morning the other day, and they sent me the video. And so, beforehand, back in the day, I used to be scared to show these videos around, but now that I'm old, I realize that they want you to show the videos around. They're like, oh, it's great stuff, it's advertising for them. And so, but this is a pretty good spot here that they did. I think it's this one. Nope, is it this one? It's this one. Well, where did I put it? I think I put it. Hold on a sec. Let me look at my tab. All right, I put it here. Let me load it. Okay, here it is. Now I got it loaded. So this was a lot of fun. The play has been a lot of fun, but as well, just doing, watching the development of the girls through this. And then as well, getting to do stuff like getting to do the TV spots. So good for them to get on there. So proud at how they reacted. And before I play this, so this is my 13-year-old daughter, Bella, my 9-year-old daughter, Penelope, and then as well the producer and her daughter. And so the spot was, and of course, anyway, I won't get into those details, but the spot was, doing stuff with your kids, and it has been really, really nice. I am looking forward to getting back to work somewhat full time, but it has been really wonderful. But here's the spot. I want everyone to see it. I'm super proud dad right here.
You're watching Good Morning Washington.
Well, the Little Theater of Alexandria
All right, hold on.
presents.
You're watching Good Morning Washington.
Well, the Little Theater of Alexandria presents Annie the Musical. Bruce Porter Jr., along with daughters Bella and Penelope, are here along with the show producer, Jacqueline Robertson, and her daughter, actress Kinsey Robertson. So welcome to all of you. So lots of families working together. Let's talk to you, Jacqueline, about, Annie. I mean, it is such an iconic movie and musical. Tell us a little bit about what our viewers can expect.
So if you are familiar with the movie, which most of us are, I remember watching it as a girl in the 90s and falling in love with Annie. It is a little bit different. In the musical that you see on stage, there are a lot more big musical numbers, specifically from the character of Mr. Warbucks. The classics, It's a Hard Knock Life that the orphans sing is in there. That is a crowd favorite.
Oh, I can imagine. I feel like I was singing them. I tried earlier, and Brian Vandegraff said, "Don't quit your day job," which I'm not going to. But anyway, Bruce, tell me what it's like being on stage and acting along with your daughters. I mean, that must be really cool.
It has been like one of the coolest experiences. I'm from a big family. We had 6 kids in my family. And so as I was growing up, I did multiple plays with my sisters, with even my brothers. And I always told my wife, Emmy, that it would be so fun to do a play with the girls. And so like for years, I even had the Little Theater in Alexandria targeted. And so as it rolled out this, over the last few months, I thought, well, I think this will work out. And sure enough, it was Annie, this iconic play. And we all went and tried out. And it has been exactly what I thought. It's just been such a wonderful experience. Be there every time they do a scene, I'm there. I'm like making sure everything's okay. Like, is that prop in? Is that this? And yeah, of course.
And they're making sure you're okay too.
Well, maybe there's a little of that too. But
but it sounds
wonderful.
like it really is. I mean, kind of a dream come true.
Absolutely.
For
no
you.
doubt about it.
And then girls, I mean, this must be incredible. So Bella, why don't you start? What was, is this your first play? Have you done plays before?
I've done a lot of plays, actually. I've done a bunch with Studio Blue. This is my first one with the Little Theater of Alexandria, though.
And it probably is a really cool venue to perform at.
Yes, it's so beautiful. I love it so much, especially that I get to do with my family. So much fun.
And your younger sister here, Penelope. So Penelope, who do you play in the show? And tell us probably one of your most favorite parts about being an Annie.
So probably my favorite part of being an Annie is like the fact that I have like family around me, and I've been with the cast so long that it feels like they're family too. And
who do you play?
I play Kate, one of the orphans, and in this song called NYC, I'm a little boy that's poor.
Oh, so you really get to experience and try on a lot of different roles. Kinsey, I want to ask you, what has it been like? I mean, how many times have you been in plays? And tell us your role and what's been the most fun about it.
I've never been in a show before, so this is my first show. And it's really been fun working with my mom on things because normally I'm the one helping her.
Oh. And Mom, what's that like for you being in your role and you're still that mother-daughter, but you're also working kind of professionally.
So like Kinsey said, normally I'm the actor, and she helps backstage in the shows that I'm in. The roles are reversed this time. So now I get to see her act on stage while I'm the one sitting in the booth or being backstage. And I cry every night because I know what it feels like as an actor on stage, the adrenaline and just how much fun you have being with your chosen family, right, Penelope?
Yes.
But watching her do this thing that I've loved for decades just fills me with so much joy that we get to share it together.
Oh, the energy is just palpable in here. It really is. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, okay, maybe I want to get into theater. But how long is Annie going to be? How long can we catch it?
So we actually only have 4 more shows.
Okay.
And they are Wednesday through Saturday this week. This has been a very successful show for the Little Theater of Alexandria with a big cast of kids and dogs.
Ooh.
We've sold out. Our run has sold out. So you could maybe still get a ticket if you call the box office and get added to our wait list or show up early. But we are sold out, unfortunately.
Well,
it's so good.
We're so happy to hear that. We've got the final moments of Good Morning Washington after this. Again, head to thelittletheater.com in Alexandria for more. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
In the news again. No. It was fun.
Nice.
It was really
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was a nice spot.
Amazing.
They did. They have they a good spot, and there are still tickets last night. And so every night, I think we are sold out, but every night there are some people that don't show up. So if you do want to come see it, you can come and sometimes get some tickets right there. I know that they were able to last night. So if you do want to come, it's not a lost cause or anything. Come and check it out. We'd love to see you. Great show this morning, David. I know we're doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. Tomorrow we're going to bring on Arbius. Arbius is an AI and machine learning token. They're using some new algorithm to mine with GPUs. Pretty excited about that. I think that's going to be really interesting for our viewers. So that's going to be tomorrow on the Impact Morning Show. This last segment that we have right here, this last 15 minutes. So super excited about that. We're going to highlight some of the best projects that we see out there, and so you guys can really take advantage of this bull run, and hopefully turn that into some great upside for yourself. So I'm signing off. David, thanks, sir.
Yes. Keep that greed index high. We'll see you soon.
See you guys at 11 a.m. on your TVs in Texas and Louisiana, 12 noon on the East Coast, 9 a.m. on the West Coast.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.